This is a podcast or something like that. Hello, and welcome to episode 58 of the Verbal Journal podcast. It's important that we say the episode number right at the beginning. People get very confused if we don't do that, and we've gotten a lot of letters of complaint. So episode 58, that's the one you're listening to right now. If you meant to click a different one, now's your chance. Basically, you won't get another chance after right now to click off and go to a different episode. All right, and you're locked in. Welcome. Welcome back, I should say, because I've done 57 other of these, and I like it. I like it. It's starting to become a little bit routine. That's the thing, when you make something a routine. That's why I never did a streaming schedule. I never said, I'll stream on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because I didn't want it to feel routine. It does feel routine. So I'll see what I can do about that. It's a little bit of like, okay, Sunday morning, I have to do a verbal journal. Even though I like it, it's becoming a little bit of a sense of I have to do it. You ever have that where it's like, there's something you do want to do it. Oh, I was talking about this last week, right? The idea, I gave the analogy of like visiting a sick relative. It's like you don't want to do it, but you want to do it in the reality you're in, where the alternative is you have a sick relative who you don't visit. It's like sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do the verbal journal, but I do, I wouldn't be doing it right now if I didn't want to do it, obviously, on some level. On some very, very deep level, I do want to be doing this. If you dig down deep enough, there's a part of me that really is having a great time right now. I mean, no, I was talking about this, though, and it was the idea that, like, sometimes you should just do things that you don't want to do. And that's just an interesting question, because obviously a lot of times you shouldn't. A lot of times you shouldn't do things you don't want to do, and you should just do things you do want to do. But why would we even have the idea of should if we always did things we wanted to do, as I would ask. Anyways, so I'm here, I'm loud and proud. I'm speaking into the microphone. Where do we start here? I got a few things on the agenda today. Updates on the Mark Rothko biography I'm reading. A lot of people were writing in and saying, you got to update us. How's that Mark Rothko biography going? And it's going good. Thank you for asking. It's a very good biography. It's very well written, very good commentary on Mark Rothko. Very not hagiographic, which is a good vocab word for a piece of writing that is about a saint. It's not hagiography. Well, anyways, it treats him like a person. It points out when he's pompous, when he's arrogant, when he's pretentious. It points out when he's just probably misleading about his own life. He was someone that tended to exaggerate a little bit or be a little bit theatrical. He was a theater kid. Comes with the territory a little bit of exaggerating sometimes, not full on lying, but a little bit exaggerating, sometimes maybe misrepresenting things, but, it's interesting to read. And yeah, so in the last week or two, I've like made it sort of through the like late 1940s into the 1950s, which is when he developed the Mark Rothko signature style that we all know. And many love, many don't love. Before that he was, basically sort of a surrealist painter, but more in the like Jackson Pollock surrealism before Jackson Pollock did his strip paintings, which was around the same time as Mark Rothko figuring out his signature style, a little bit earlier, I think. And, there were other artists figuring out their own signature styles all around the same time. Clifford Still, I guess he had figured it out earlier, actually, his own style. Barnett Newman, similar time to Mark Rothko, maybe a little after actually, because he was like a writer. He was sort of a writer, or not a writer, but he was like the mouthpiece for some other artists. But um, Barnett Newman has a great famous expression. Aesthetics is for artists like ornithology is for the birds. At some like conference about aesthetics. It's a great expression. Those who can't do right art criticism. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, Mark Rothko is an interesting guy. I mean, he was a very sad man. He was very depressed, and he didn't handle success well, and he just was very insecure. He seemed to like not really participate in like normal social relationships in the way that I would kind of expect. Like it seems like he was, I don't know. I guess it's hard to get a full picture, but it seems like he was very full of himself. He didn't give off that impression to everyone, but enough where it's like, okay, this was a real problem. But it's a great biography, and it's a really interesting look into his life. Right now I'm at the part where Mark Rothko is a famous thing in his life where he was given this huge commission to work on these murals at the Four Seasons Hotel in New York, which was in a building owned by the Seagram family, which we now know for their relation to the what was it? It's the Bronfman daughters, who are related to the Seagrams or whatever, or part of that family. And then they were part of the Nexium cult or whatever, if that's how you say it. I don't know if, I guess, I don't feel like looking up all the details, but that's how we know of the Seagram family now over here at Verbal Therapy, what's journal.gov. But yeah, so the Seagrams had this building with a like huge, massive, like fancy Four Seasons restaurant they were putting into it, and they commissioned Mark Rothko to paint murals for it. And he deliberated for a long time. He to his credit, he did hate rich people, but he also was very tortured in the sense that he didn't know, and hate isn't good really in any case. I'm just, speaking glibly and briefly, but he didn't, he couldn't really make up his mind about stuff. But I mean, it's okay to change your mind about things. I don't blame him for taking the commission, and I don't blame him for eventually deciding he was going to not do the commission and withdraw his paintings, but I just wish he didn't suffer so much, I wish he didn't suffer so much. One really interesting thing, just going backward in his life a little bit, this was like in the 40s, he was involved in a lot of artist organizations. Marcus Rothkowitz, which was his birth name, from Russia. And so when he was living in New York, he was involved in these different organizations. He would like write these letters to art critics and argue with them and try to publish these manifestos and these things. And he started a school, I forget who, with some of those artists I named, not Jackson Pollock, but like Barnett Newman, and Clifford Still was like almost in on it and then wasn't, and some other, I forget exactly who, but they started like a sort of symposium type of like artists teaching artists, like give a talk every week type of thing. And it was called Subjects of the Artist School, the Subjects of the Artist. And it was so funny because like, Adolf Gottlieb, I think, was another artist closely involved. What does his art look like, by the way? They kept mentioning him, and I don't know what his art looks like. Adolf Gottlieb. His last name means God's love, or love God, or something. Wow, that's interesting. Wow, that's really, really interesting and unique. Not exactly my favorite thing, but I can see why he was like I can see why he was friends with the people I can see where he was similar and where he was different, Okay, some of this is kind of interesting. I mean, whatever, you can't. Yeah, I mean, it's not that great. It's not that great. Um, okay, cool. Um, okay, so anyways, so the subjects of the artist school, I just thought it was so funny, this little story they told about it, because it was like a funny name for a school of artists that were abstract. Like that's what these artists had in common is that they're very abstract. Whether they want to call themselves that today or call themselves that tomorrow or deny them that they're abstract today, deny that they like to be funny and stuff. But yeah, I mean, anyways, what I found really funny about it was the reasoning given. I think it was Adolf Gottlieb. One of them said there was a quote like, we thought it was a good title, The Subjects of the Artist, because it emphasizes that we are artists, that we have subjects. So I'm not trying to make it sound dumber than it was. Like his point was, we're calling ourselves subjects of the artist school because even though we paint abstract art, we do have subjects. We're representing myth. We're representing death. We're representing, some like real important, tragic, powerful narratives and subjects and topics. But I just thought that was so funny because, like, regardless of what you want to say about that, whether you want to look at a completely abstract painting with absolutely no representation and buy into that it has a subject. Because at the end of the day, it's like, sure, whatever, it's art. Okay, it has a subject. You're representing it abstractly. Okay, it has a subject. Yeah, fine. But to me, there's something so funny about we're naming our school this because it's like it's defensive. It's like we're naming our school subjects of the artist because we do have subjects. Because there are what they're saying is like we have subjects like other artists have subjects. But if you have subjects like other artists have subjects, then why would you define your school based on the fact that you have a subject in your painting? It would be like if I created a new sport and it was called like ball or something. It's like, well, we have a ball. It's like, yeah, but you're supposed to name your thing based on how it's different than other stuff. I don't know. Okay, one crazy thing is Mark Rothko's second wife, who was much younger than him, like 15 years or something. I forget the exact. Mark Rothko, second wife. So he was born in 1903, right? She was born, yeah, Mel. Oh God, why don't they put? Okay, does she not have her own Wikipedia page? That's fair, I guess. She was born in 1922. Yeah, that's not good. That's 19 years younger. I mean, she moved to New York in the spring of 1944. So, yeah, she had just gotten out of college a couple years earlier, and Rothko was in his 40s. He was 41 when they met. So that's, whoa, I'm like finding some interesting articles. The Guardian. Okay, wait, I'm going to send this to myself to read after I finish the book. Hold on. So cool. Let me hold on. Just hang in there for a second. We're doing some technical stuff here on the back end. So second wife, and Mark Rothko, I don't know if calling him a misogynist is like he said misogynistic things and like had misogynistic expectations. It's less of like me wanting to call him a misogynist, but like he was very much not he did not go beyond traditional expectations of gender relations, even though he viewed himself as this like modernist, like pushing boundaries and social conventions type of person. There somehow those social conventions didn't extend to gender relations or expectations on. I mean, he honestly, I would say, like had unhealthy sort of dynamics with his wife. Like he wanted like a caretaker. There's a lot of like The biographer saying he wanted like maternal care and love. Rothko's dad died when he was really young, after moving to Portland, Oregon, from Russia a few years before Mark and his mom and one of his siblings. So I think Mark had some abandonment complex stuff with his dad, and then with his mom, just like maybe a complicated relationship that comes with like having a single parent for a lot of your life. And there's sort of an idea put forward that like Rothko, as a lot of people do, sort of like had this vacillation between like wanting care and comfort and then wanting to not be like engulfed or smothered in that care and comfort. So that's a very normal dynamic, but it seems like when he was an adult, he was seeking to have relationships where it was it's almost like felt like he was using his wives. And so his first wife divorced him when she became more independent, and she divorced him. So his second wife, I'm just building up to this, she called him Rothko. According to the biographer, his second wife called him Rothko. Like, to other people, she'd call him Rothko because she thought he was such this genius, and he thought he was such this genius. Could you imagine letting your fucking partner or your wife call you your last name, unless you like go by your last name all the time? I mean, he didn't want to be treated as a human, you know what I mean? And that's sad. He didn't know how to be treated as a human, maybe. Okay, well, yeah, so I'll keep reading that book. Don't worry about that. Okay, cool. Well, let's keep going. All right. So I just took a little break and did like 4 other things. Okay, so I just wanted to follow up on something. So I've been like, I haven't, made a video in a while. I'm so sorry. That's sort of something I've been mentioning a few times. And I just wanted to say, like, enough of that. It's a little bit misrepresenting things, because it's just enough of that. Like, I don't know. Oh, I'm so sorry, because in reality, I've worked on some stuff, I've worked on some stuff, and I feel like there's, I haven't like been in the mode of like making a video where I'm like working on a video every day, and like, spending many hours, but it's not that I've done nothing. And I guess I want to walk that line, updating folks, but, I'm not trying to apologize exactly. And then I made a note to myself to go through my video ideas list with you all, but I want to do a video on parasociality, maybe with streaming or other types of parasociality. Long time in the works. I want to do a video about suicide. I talked about it in my Breaking Bad video, but I think that there's a lot more to say about it. So I want to do a video about suicide eventually. I want to do a video on containment, like emotional containment, and like what is required when we are experiencing emotions in complicated situations. But yeah, I don't really know where that's going. Part of me wants to do a video on the H3 podcast, because it's something that I recently got into, and I know there's so much history and so much controversy around it, and it would be interesting to me to like explore that from the perspective of, I guess, the same types of subjects I go into in my videos normally, like redemption. When do we understand people to have taken accountability and grown versus when do we view them as not having done so? The same subject I love covering, but that might be an interesting avenue to do it in. So I've watched some H3 videos and taken some notes, but don't quite know. I think you should leave. I don't know where I took notes on. I think you should leave, and I need to find them. I don't know where they are. I want to do a video on professionalism. I want to do a video on therapy and media. I want to do a What's Therapy Part 2 video. I want to do a video on therapy speak, like that idea of how people talk in like a clinical way when they go to therapy, which is, I think, not really usually true, but it's sort of a cliche, a stereotype. So it'd be interesting to do a video on therapy speak. And then the video on an AI art company that I've talked about working on, that's the one that's most in the works. I have thousands of words written for that. I really don't know whether I'm going to make it in the next, I don't know. I need to kind of see what happens with the company. I'm a little bit curious. I kind of want to wait. So I want to do a video about Karens. I want to do a video finding the grain of good in Karens. A video about the book Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut. A video about anti-Semitism I think would be interesting, specifically looking at this one I'm probably not going to ever do because it opens me up to so much crap. But like I one time went into these like leaked chats from like a neo-Nazi group and was seeing what some of them were saying, and it was so interesting. Like one of the guys was like literally talking about how he hated Jews because or not because of this, but like he was saying how when he was like in kindergarten, like the Jewish teacher like gave his toy to a Jewish student. And I was like, dude, are you seriously admitting that in your neo-Nazi hate group? Like, what the fuck, dude? So, but I'll never do that one. I want to do a video about sports interviews. I find that so funny, like interviews at the end of games and stuff. A video about rocks, a video about NPCs and the way that concept is used online would be really interesting. A video about spirituality, and a video about gaslighting, a video about saran wrap, and that video. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, I'm just saying those are my video ideas. I thought I'd share those. I thought listeners would find those very interesting. And you can tell me right into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. Tell me if any of those interest you. All right. So now we got the Grinds My Gears segment. So this segment's been going really well. Today, I gave a little trailer for this last time, a little hint about it. Today, I'm going to be talking about trailers. So that's a meta joke. That's very funny. Trailers for shows or movies. What grinds my gears about them? That's too vague, I feel like, for this section. That's too vague. Why did I write that down? That's too vague. You can't just say trailers. I mean, they do grind. That's just too vague. Okay, next, I have a replacement for that because that's too vague. Okay, instead, my grinds my gears point for today is people who are following no one on social media. So this is a thing you see sometimes. It's like, and I get it if you're a brand or you're a musician, you're an artist, it looks cool. I get it. It looks cool. I'm just here to be followed. I'm not here to follow. I guess I feel like if you're on an app and you don't want to use the app, you're sort of saying that you're above it, but you want to utilize it for the people who are not above it. And if it's fair, I mean, most apps suck, but like if you don't think you want to ever use that app, then maybe the app is worthless in your mind, which is totally fair, but then act like it's worthless and don't use the app at all. It's just like, I'm just a little bit sick of it. It grinds my gears a little bit. They start churning and grinding a little bit. Oh, you're following no one. How original. How original. Following like 5 or 10 people is way cooler than following no one, in my opinion. So, okay, there you go. Double for your money there on the Grinds My Gears segment. Chess segment. So we got some great chess. The candidates tournament has started. So this is the tournament where the winner will play the world champion, and there's a men's candidate, or there's an open candidate, and then there's a women's candidate, because historically women have had less access to chess, so they're still basically catching up to where men are at. They don't have as good coaching. They don't have the ability to spend as much time usually. with chess because women are socially made to do a lot of the unpaid labor in this world and childcare and other things that take up a lot of time. But so women are still catching up to men chess-wise. I have no doubt that they will be there. And that's just on the general level. Obviously, the top men have lost to women before. But I love this great video from a few years ago. Judith Polgar beating Magnus Carlsen at a park. Oh, she absolutely whooped him. But anyways, so the open candidates and the women's candidates, a very, very biggest tournament of the year for sure. And in the women's section, there were some great games. I didn't look yesterday, so let's see. So round 3. Okay, let's look at the open one first because that's what came up. So in round 3, we saw 3 draws and then Pragananda won, which is good because he lost in round 2. He's like very young. This is like how old is Prag now? He's 18 now. Wow, and he's in the candidates. He's just such a talent. Yeah, but he did lose round 2 to Gukesh. He lost as white. Gukesh played a great game. Both players from India. So then in round 3, Pragananda won as black to who did he beat? Oh, to Vidit. Okay, to another player from India. There are 3 players from India in the candidates. That's got to be a record. That's amazing. Wow. Only 1 player from Russia. 2 players from the U.S., Fabiano and Hikaru. They drew in the first round, right? But Fabiano looked like he did have chances, but they ended up drawing. He was up a pawn and a solid pawn, but he did end up sort of misplaying it a little bit. So right now, after 3 rounds in the open section, we got a 3-way tie for first: Gukesh, Nepomniachtchi, and Caruana. So very cool. And then in the women's section, what happened in round 3 here? In round 3, we had 3 draws, and then on board 4, same as the open section, we had a win. And this is Ramesh Babu Vaishali. I don't actually know her. But she beat someone else I don't know, Nurgil Salamova. So that's cool. I didn't... Okay, yeah. Interesting opening. Oh, Castle Queenside. Wow, sack of a knight. That's bold. Okay, yeah, and then she just, crushed. Yeah, I was looking at a game in round 2 in the open section. I think it was 2 of the players from China, the two players from. Oh, wait a second, that's weird. You know what I just noticed? Whoa, that's so weird because since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, like a lot of the Russian players will have to go under a different flag. They go under the FIDE flag, the Chess Federation flag. But then one of them is under the FIDE flag here too, Alexandra Goryachenko, who's a great player. But she's under the FIDE flag, but Katerina Lagno, who I believe is married to Sasha Grishchuk, who's a top chess player, another top chess player. But she's under it's not the Russian flag, but it's a different flag, and then it says Federation Russia. Okay, this is so not interesting. Okay, I'm sorry. That's it. Okay. But there is one thing I'll say is there's amazing coverage of the candidates chess tournament on YouTube. I've never seen this before where they have each game. You can watch game by game. So it's not normal. It's not like normal with a chess broadcast where you're like, oh, I hope they follow the game I want to watch. If there's like 4 games and there's one you want to watch, it's like, I hope they talk about that one. It's like you can just watch the one you want. So that's really, really good. You love to see progress in the chess broadcast world because it is slow. And yeah. Next up is the fantasy segment. So this is cool. It's Sunday, so it's the last day of my fantasy baseball matchup. So I got to win the matchup. I did end up winning last week. It was actually extremely dramatic. It was down to the wire. One of my opponent's players, they had a few pitchers, and one of them pitched a terrible game. And then I had a few players have a few good games, and I ended up winning, which was really dope. Today, I very well might lose this matchup. I'm down almost 40 points on the last day, which is really rough. And I only have one pitcher throwing. So my pitcher needs to have an incredibly good game, and I need to have a lot of batters with a good game. And I don't think my opponent has any pitchers throwing. Oh, they do. They do. That's actually good for me because I need their pitcher to have a very, very bad game. It's Logan Webb. I think he's the same one that threw a terrible game last weekend. But odds are I'm going to lose this matchup. I am probably going to lose this week. But what I learned from last year is that sometimes you just lose. What you don't want to do is, last year on the last day, I would like change out a bunch of my players, add a bunch of pitchers with starts that day to try to get a bunch of points on the last day. Not only can you get negative points with the pitchers if they have a bad day, but now you just gave up players that might have a really good week next week. These are players that I drafted, people who I think are going to do good. So you can't just give them up for the short-term advantage. You got to play the long game. So wish me luck. And there's also the women's NCAA finals today. That should be really interesting. Caitlin going up against undefeated South Carolina. That should be dope. And cool. Okay, so that's that. What else do we have here on the agenda? Oh, the mailbag. Mailbag. Okay, let's check out the mailbag. This is my favorite part. We got so many letters in last week. So many handwritten letters. I was like spending hours responding to them. So that was really amazing. Lots of great letters coming in. So let's see if we got any mail this week. You can write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. And, okay, Sam has written back in. I asked Sam to explain what they meant about me having a really good sense of fairness in my videos. Or in the podcast. I'm sorry, in the podcast. So Sam wrote back and said, "Ballyhoo, what's therapy? Fairness. I'd like to say it's more concrete than just how. Even when you object to something or someone, say a basketball player, you express yourself clearly and well fairly." Thank you. See, I wanted more of this detail because I felt like there was a lot of really good compliment in there. You don't provide, quote, both sides of the argument. That wouldn't be, quote, fair. That would be dull. You say how you feel, but also back it up with logic. I can see why chess appeals to you. Thanks, Sam. I appreciate that. I do very much like. So I like the controversy of stuff, and I obviously like talking about like stuff with nuance and subtlety. And I also like being funny, and I think sometimes that can be a mixed bag because like you can try to be funny, but then you can be sacrificing something on the like nuance side. Implications and assumptions are built into humor, and those can sometimes not be the most intelligent ones or the most balanced ones. So like for example, I will sometimes I'll watch like comedians or podcasts that are funny or something, and they'll make funny jokes, but I'm like, I wish they like said a quick thing to like clarify that they know that that's not the right assumption. You know what I mean? Or like, it's hard to put the right spin on, but basically I do feel like fairness is important. I guess justice, like just being like putting things in their proper place and making it proportionate in terms of how you speak about something. If it's bad, or if it's slightly bad, speaking about it like it's slightly bad rather than, awful or something like that. But anyways, yeah, so I do find that's an interesting thing to balance nuance with like the humor and the aspects of like, comedic exaggeration or stuff that can go into humor, but I don't know. Anyways, thank you, Sam. And you mentioned your pen name here that sounds like, I assume, writing or something. Let me know if you want me to share that. I can give you a little bump here. We have upwards of 3 listeners here on the Verbal Journal podcast, so you could get a real plug in. You just write back in about that. See, I'm going to keep doing this with people. If you write into me, I'm going to find some way to be like, write in again, actually, about this other thing. And then you close your email with Ballyhoo as well. So Ballyhoo is apparently an introduction and a closing. Thank you so much for writing in again. And you did answer my question very, very satisfactorily, very fairly, I would say. Okay, I sent myself... Oh, yeah, this is the thing I sent myself today. Right. That's That's not for now. That's for next time. Okay. A few more things. Obviously, there was a lot of controversy around Reginald, the data guy. Obviously, we have Reginald who does our data here at Verbal Journal Podcast. There was a lot of controversy. Simply Snap's friend of the channel, aspiring enemy of the channel. She commented on the most recent pod. She's trying to steal Reginald away from me. And I get it. Reginald is pretty hot shit. But, Simply Snaps, you get a few 100,000 view videos and you get a little too big for your, what's the expression? Is it britches? Hold on, let me look that up. That sounds offensive. Yeah. No, it's britches. Breeches. Is it breeches or britches? Because I'm seeing both. I searched britches and I'm seeing breeches. But people don't say you're too big for your breeches. They say you're too big for your britches. And then they say breeches ain't shit. Okay. So anyways, Snaps, I get it. You're trending, you're hanging out with like Mr. Beast, and all the biggest stars. I get it. You think you can poach Reginald from me, but good luck with that. Is all I have to say. Reginald is my best friend, and I gave him a little vacation, so he was not here today. I gave him a vacation to make sure that he stays happy. Okay, and now we're going to close it out with the desks. First up, so we saved the desks for the end. First up, the marketing desk. You might have seen this on the main channel. I did some great marketing. I posted about the Verbal Journal podcast, the one you're listening to right now. I said, hey, check out the Verbal Journal podcast. All the subscribers got 75 upvotes. That's huge. Got 8 comments. 4 comments, and then I responded to them, and then, a few people respond. So, 4 comments, so huge results. And, so I was telling people, hey, become a member if you want, or subscribe to the Patreon if you want to listen to the podcast. No worries if not. And I'll tell you, I didn't get any members, but I got 2 new patrons from that. So that is huge. That's going to help me make rent this month. That's going to help a lot of things. So thank you so much to the 2 patrons. I hope you're loving this episode. And let's see. Next up, we have the tech/law desk. Here we have Sam Altman isn't buying Elon Musk's explanation for his OpenAI lawsuit. Okay, let's see this. Sam Altman, and I don't know who that is, but he sounds familiar. Oh, OpenAI CEO. Okay. So the OpenAI CEO thinks Elon Musk's decision to file a lawsuit against OpenAI is not about whether its technology is open source. They said it's, quote, what this is about for him. So Musk sued, and Elon Musk famously has a significant amount of money. So he's saying he's suing ChatGPT because it isn't basically he's saying that they're putting private gain above other things, which is hilarious for a man who made his money in the way Elon Musk made his money to be saying. Altman says he said Musk only chose to do so. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I really don't care. I'm sorry, I don't care. That's all we're getting for that one. Okay, that's all we're getting for the tech law desk. Okay. Business desk, very different. Here we go. Manchester United canceled credit cards in bid to cut costs. So Manchester United, famous soccer team. The sport is called soccer. God bless America. Manchester United have canceled the corporate credit cards of senior figures at Old Trafford as part of a cost review process. There's a lot of coasts also in that area of the world. As part of a cost review process instigated by minority owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Let me look him up. Doesn't look like a minority to me. Minority owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe By the way, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, so getting knighted or whatever, maybe I wouldn't actually do this. Maybe I'm just a liar, but I would like to think that I would reject getting knighted. I really do think it's seriously a mark of shame. And I think, I think I've talked about this before on the podcast. All right, never mind. Anyways, yeah, the team was hit with a $300,000 fine last summer following a breach of the financial sustainability regulations. They overspent during the past 2 summer transfer windows. And so they're confident they're going to comply, and I don't care. Well, I care a little bit more about this. It's kind of interesting, but we're done. That's it for today. We're done. Thanks so much for, being here and listening and, being in my life as ears. And I will catch you on the other side of the life. I'll see you next week. I'm going to do another episode next week, whether I feel like it or not, because I'm glad I did it today. You know what I mean? A lot of people relying on me for this. A lot of people relying on me. So I'm gonna stop now. Okay. Goodbye. This is a podcast or something